Introduction. The pattern that changed everything. Linda sat in her car outside her ex-boyfriend's apartment, staring at the darkened windows and feeling a familiar ache in her chest. 3 relationships, 3 years, 3 devastating endings, all eerily similar. Each man had started out charming and attentive, drawing her in with intense connection and promises of forever. But as soon as she began to feel secure, to believe this might be the one, they would begin to pull away. The texts became shorter. The dates less frequent. The emotional walls went up, brick by brick, until she was left grasping at someone who had become a stranger. What haunted her most wasn't just the heartbreak, it was the recognition. The same desperate anxiety that made her check her phone obsessively. The same overwhelming need for reassurance that seemed to push partners away. The same crushing fear of abandonment that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. She wasn't just unlucky in love. She was trapped in a pattern so precise it felt scripted. That night, Linda made a discovery that would change her life forever. Through tears and Google searches at 2 a.m., she stumbled upon research about attachment theory and the neuroscience of love. What she learned shook her to her core. Her childhood experiences, growing up with a mother who was loving one moment and emotionally distant the next, had literally rewired her brain for insecurity. But here's what gave her hope. If her brain had been wired for insecurity, it could be rewired for security. Her love life wasn't doomed by her past, it was simply operating from an outdated blueprint that could be rewritten. Your 3-0 DAY transformation awaits. This book exists for one transformative purpose: to provide you with a scientifically backed, step-by-step process that rewires your attachment system from insecurity to security in just 30 days. Not through years of therapy, not through hoping the right person will fix you, but through targeted daily practices that literally change how your brain processes love, connection, and relationships. For too long, people struggling with relationship patterns have been told to just choose better partners or work on your self-esteem. While well-intentioned, this advice misses the deeper truth. Your relationship struggles aren't character flaws or conscious choices, they're the result of neural pathways carved by early experiences. This book bridges the gap between understanding why you struggle and actually changing those patterns. You'll discover how to identify the specific ways your nervous system has been programmed for insecurity, the exact techniques needed to create new neural pathways for secure attachment, daily practices that will make these changes permanent. The goal isn't just to stop destructive patterns, it's to help you break free from anxious and avoidant relationship cycles, heal deep childhood wounds, and develop the inner security needed to attract confident, healthy love. WHO This book serves. This book is specifically designed for adults who recognize themselves in Linda's story, those trapped in cycles of relationship anxiety, emotional avoidance, or consistently attracting partners who can't meet their needs for genuine connection. You might become anxiously attached in relationships, constantly seeking reassurance or feeling consumed by fears of abandonment. Perhaps you recognize avoidant patterns, pulling away when relationships get close or feeling suffocated by emotional needs. Or maybe you're caught in the painful dance of anxious avoidant relationships, repeatedly drawn to emotionally unavailable partners. This book is for you if you're tired of surface-level advice that doesn't address root causes. You've probably tried positive thinking, dating apps, or therapy, but you keep finding yourself in the same patterns with different people. You're ready to go deeper than behavioral changes. Most importantly, this is for those ready to do the inner work required for lasting change. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be ready to heal the childhood wounds that have been unconsciously directing your adult relationships. The neuroscience advantage. Unlike traditional relationship advice that focuses on communication techniques, this book addresses the neurobiological foundation of how you experience love and connection. Most relationship guidance treats symptoms without addressing the underlying cause, an insecurely wired nervous system. Here's what makes this approach revolutionary. We're literally rewiring the neural pathways in your brain that determine how you attach to others. Using cutting-edge research in neuroscience, attachment theory, and trauma healing, you'll work directly with your nervous system to create lasting change from the inside out. When you change behaviors without addressing underlying neural patterns, old programming eventually resurfaces, especially under stress. But when you rewire your attachment system at the neurological level, the changes become your new default operating system. This isn't about managing insecurities, it's about eliminating them at their source. Your journey ahead. Over the next 30 days, you'll be guided through 4 distinct transformation phases. Days 1 to 7. Recognition and regulation. Identify your specific attachment patterns and learn nervous system regulation techniques. Days 8 to 14. Rewiring and release. Interrupt old neural pathways while creating new ones through targeted healing exercises. Days 15 to 21. Integration and embodiment. Make secure attachment your default mode through daily practices. Days 22 to 30. Mastery and maintenance. Solidify transformation and prepare for long-term success. Each day includes specific exercises, journal prompts, and mini lessons taking 15 to 30 minutes to complete. You'll read real stories of successful transformation, understand simple neuroscience explanations, and track measurable progress. Your moment of choice. Right now, you're standing at a crossroads. Behind you lies a trail of relationship patterns that have brought pain and disappointment. Ahead lies the possibility of complete transformation. Not just better relationships, but a fundamentally different way of experiencing love. The next 30 days will pass, whether you choose transformation or remain stuck in familiar patterns. How many more relationships will you watch crumble under unhealed attachment wounds? How much longer will you accept anxiety and avoidance as normal parts of love? The transformation waiting isn't just about finding a better partner. It's about becoming the securely attached person who naturally attracts and maintains healthy love. Your future self, the one who loves confidently and creates relationships built on genuine security rather than fear, is waiting just 30 days from now. Turn the page and let's begin. 1. The ghost in your love story. The hidden map your childhood drew. Imagine a 3-year-old Jennifer crying in her crib, calling for her overwhelmed mother who is dealing with her own depression and rarely responds with warmth or consistency. This little girl's developing brain is making crucial decisions about love, safety, and whether she can count on others to be there for her. These early experiences create an invisible blueprint that will guide every romantic relationship she enters for decades to come. Your attachment blueprint is the unconscious template your brain developed in your earliest years to navigate relationships and ensure survival. Formed through thousands of micro-interactions with your primary caregivers before age 5, this blueprint operates like invisible software running in the background of every romantic encounter. The science behind this process is both fascinating and sobering. Critical period formation. The attachment system develops during the most neuroplastic period of human development, when your brain is forming 700-1,000 new neural connections per second. Survival-based programming. Your young brain prioritized survival over accuracy, creating strategies that kept you safe as a child but may sabotage adult relationships. Implicit memory storage. These patterns are stored in implicit memory, meaning they influence your behavior without conscious awareness. Consider Mason, who came to therapy convinced he was just bad at relationships. At 34, his pattern was always the same: intense initial connection, followed by a growing sense of suffocation, then an inevitable breakup where he'd cite needing space. Through exploring his childhood, he discovered that his emotionally intrusive mother had trained his nervous system to associate closeness with losing himself. His attachment blueprint had learned that love meant engulfment. So his brain would trigger escape responses whenever relationships deepened. Once he understood this wasn't a character flaw, but a protective mechanism formed decades earlier, he could begin the work of rewiring these automatic responses. Your blueprint isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to understand and transform it. In the next chapter, we'll explore exactly how these early experiences shaped your specific attachment style, and why your heart learned to protect itself in the particular ways it did. Your brain's first survival lessons. Picture a baby's brain as a construction site where the foreman, your caregiver's responses, determines which neural pathways get built into superhighways and which remain dirt roads. When Elliot was an infant, and his anxious father would tense up every time he cried, his developing nervous system learned to read tension as danger, creating hypervigilant neural pathways that would later manifest as relationship anxiety. Your early bonding experiences literally shaped your brain architecture, determining which neural networks became dominant and how your nervous system learned to respond to connection, separation, and emotional intimacy. Understanding this neuroscience is crucial because it explains why changing relationship patterns requires more than willpower. It requires rewiring deeply embedded neural pathways. The key mechanisms behind this process include mirror neuron development. Your brain's mirror neurons learn to read and respond to your caregiver's emotional states, creating your baseline for what feels normal in relationships. Stress response calibration. Your autonomic nervous system calibrated its threat detection based on early experiences, determining your window of tolerance for relationship stress. Neuroplasticity and hope. While these patterns run deep, adult neuroplasticity means your brain can form new neural pathways with conscious effort and repeated positive experiences. Consider Violet, who struggled with what she called relationship paranoia, constantly scanning her partner's face for signs of rejection, interpreting neutral expressions as anger, and feeling flooded with anxiety when her boyfriend seemed distant. Brain scans of people with her attachment style show hyperactivity in the amygdala, fear center, and heightened sensitivity in areas that process social threats. Her brain had been trained by an unpredictably angry father to treat ambiguous social cues as potential danger. Understanding that her paranoia was actually her brain doing exactly what it had been trained to do helped her develop compassion for her responses while working to retrain her neural pathways through secure relationship experiences. This isn't about blame or dwelling in the past. It's about understanding the invisible operating system that's been running your relationships so you can consciously upgrade it. In the next chapter, we'll explore the specific ways your heart learned to protect itself and how these protective strategies became the very barriers keeping love at arm's length. Your attachment blueprint reveals everything. Sarah sat across from her fifth therapist in 10 years, describing yet another relationship that had followed the exact same script. Passionate beginning, gradual emotional withdrawal from her partner, her increasing pursuit and anxiety, followed by an explosive fight that ended everything. "It's like I'm cursed," she said, not realizing she was describing the precise signature of anxious attachment playing out with clockwork predictability. Your attachment style creates a recognizable signature, a consistent pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that shows up across all your romantic relationships. Learning to recognize your signature is like becoming aware of your own accent. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it, and this awareness becomes the first step toward change. The key elements that reveal your attachment blueprint include predictable emotional patterns. Each attachment style has characteristic emotional responses to relationship milestones, conflicts, and intimacy that repeat with remarkable consistency. Unconscious partner selection. Your attachment system draws you toward partners who will recreate familiar dynamics, even when those dynamics are painful. Self-fulfilling prophecies. Your attachment-driven behaviors often create the very outcomes you fear most, reinforcing your core beliefs about relationships. Consider Marcus, who realized his attachment signature when he noticed he only felt passionate attraction to women who were emotionally unavailable. His avoidant attachment style had trained him to equate safety with distance, so available, loving women felt boring, while unavailable ones felt exciting. He would pursue these unavailable women intensely, but the moment they became interested and available, his attraction would die. His signature included immediate chemistry with distant partners, loss of interest when pursuit ended, and a deep fear of being trapped in committed relationships. Recognizing this pattern allowed him to make conscious choices, rather than being driven by unconscious programming. Your attachment blueprint isn't destiny, it's simply the starting point for your transformation. By understanding how your early experiences shaped your relationship patterns, you gain the power to rewrite them. In Chapter 2, we'll dive deeper into the specific ways your heart learned to protect itself, and why these protective strategies became the very walls keeping true intimacy out. When trust feels like a luxury. Daniel calculated that he'd spent over $50,000 on dates, relationship coaching, and therapy over 5 years, desperately trying to find lasting love while his insecure attachment system sabotaged every promising connection. But the financial cost paled in comparison to the emotional toll, the crushing loneliness, the constant anxiety about whether he was lovable, and the growing fear that he might spend his life alone. Living with an insecure attachment system exacts a profound cost across multiple domains of your life. Beyond the obvious relationship struggles, insecure attachment affects your mental health, physical well-being, career success, and overall life satisfaction. Understanding these costs can provide motivation for the challenging but rewarding work of healing your attachment wounds. The hidden price of unhealed attachment wounds includes emotional and mental health impact. Insecure attachment correlates with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and emotional dysregulation, as your nervous system remains chronically activated. Physical health consequences. Chronic relationship stress and nervous system dysregulation contribute to inflammation, compromised immune function, and stress-related health issues. Life limitation and missed opportunities. Insecure attachment patterns often lead to avoiding vulnerability, limiting career advancement, friendship depth, and life experiences that require emotional risk. Consider Rachel, who came to understand that her anxious attachment wasn't just affecting her love life, it was costing her everything. Her constant worry about relationships made it hard to focus at work, limiting her career advancement. She turned down job opportunities that required travel because she couldn't bear to be away from partners who might leave. Her friendships suffered because she was always crisis managing romantic relationships. Most painfully, she'd terminated a pregnancy 2 years earlier because her relationship felt too unstable to bring a child into, a decision that haunted her daily. The cost of unhealed attachment wounds extended far beyond dating. It was shaping every major life decision and limiting her ability to create the life she truly wanted. But here's what's possible. Secure attachment isn't just about finding love, it's about reclaiming your entire life. When you heal these deep patterns, you don't just get better relationships, you get better everything. In Chapter 2, we'll explore how your protective strategies formed and why understanding them is the key to freedom. When your brain breaks dating rules. Marcus had read every dating book, followed every rule, and could recite dating advice like scripture. Don't text back too quickly, play hard to get, wait 3 dates before sleeping together. But none of it worked because traditional dating advice assumes you have secure attachment wiring. When your nervous system is programmed for insecurity, following surface-level strategies is like trying to run new software on a computer with a corrupted operating system. Traditional dating advice fails for people with insecure attachment because it addresses symptoms rather than root causes. These approaches assume that relationship problems stem from not knowing the right techniques, when in reality, they stem from unconscious attachment programming that overrides conscious strategies. Until you address the underlying wiring, you'll continue to sabotage your own efforts despite knowing all the rules. Why conventional wisdom falls short. Surface solutions for deep problems. Most dating advice focuses on behavior modification without addressing the underlying nervous system patterns driving those behaviors. One-size-fits-all approaches ignore attachment differences. Advice that works for secure individuals often backfires for those with anxious or avoidant attachment styles. Cognitive strategies versus nervous system realities. Your attachment system operates faster than conscious thought, meaning willpower and positive thinking are no match for deeply ingrained survival programming. Consider Jessica, who followed her dating coach's advice to be mysterious and wait hours before responding to texts, but her anxious attachment made this torture. She'd spend those hours obsessing, checking her phone constantly, and spiraling into anxiety about whether she was playing the game right. When she finally sent carefully crafted, cool responses, they felt so inauthentic that they created distance rather than attraction. The advice wasn't wrong. It just wasn't designed for someone whose nervous system interpreted delayed responses as potential abandonment. She needed attachment-informed strategies that worked with her wiring rather than against it, helping her develop genuine security rather than performing unavailability while feeling desperate inside. Your attachment blueprint doesn't make you broken, it makes you human. But understanding how it operates gives you the power to work with your nervous system instead of against it, creating authentic connection rather than performing strategies that feel foreign to your core. 2. When your heart learned to hide. Tracing your emotional wounds through time. Imagine a young child's heart as a tender seedling, naturally reaching toward the sun of love and connection. But what happens when that sun becomes unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes scorching, sometimes absent entirely? The seedling learns to adapt, to protect itself, to survive. This is how your attachment injuries began. Not as dramatic single events, but as patterns woven into the fabric of your earliest relationships. Your attachment injury timeline isn't just a collection of memories. It's the blueprint your nervous system created for navigating love and safety. Understanding this timeline allows you to see how your current relationship patterns aren't character flaws or personal failures, but intelligent adaptations that once served to protect you. The wounds that shape your adult relationships typically develop across 3 critical periods. Early infancy patterns, 0 to 2 years. How your caregivers responded to your basic needs for comfort, feeding, and soothing created your first templates for trust and safety. Toddlerhood dynamics, 2 to 4 years. The way your emerging autonomy was met, with encouragement or control, patience or frustration, shaped your beliefs about independence within relationships. School-age experiences, 5 to 12 years. Family dynamics, parental stress, divorce, or emotional unavailability during these formative years created deeper attachment wounds that now influence your adult relationship choices. Emily came to therapy convinced she was just bad at relationships. As we mapped her attachment timeline, she discovered that her pattern of intense initial connection followed by sudden withdrawal wasn't a personality flaw. At age 7, her mother had suffered severe depression after her father left. Emily learned that getting too close to someone meant risking devastating abandonment. Her adult pattern of sabotaging relationships, just as they deepened, was her nervous system's way of controlling the timing of inevitable loss, leaving before being left. Understanding this timeline helped her recognize something crucial. Her relationship struggles weren't evidence of her inadequacy, but proof of her childhood resilience. When you trace your own emotional wounds through time, you begin to see the logic behind patterns that once seemed random or self-destructive. This understanding becomes the foundation for the rewiring work we'll explore in Chapter 3, where we'll examine how these early adaptations create the anxiety avoidance dance that keeps secure love at arm's length. When your body learned to fear. There's often a pivotal moment, or series of moments, when a child's nervous system makes a fundamental shift from expecting safety to scanning for danger. This isn't always dramatic abuse or neglect. Sometimes it's as subtle as a parent's chronic anxiety, a family's financial stress, or the emotional unavailability that comes with depression or addiction. In that moment, your nervous system learned that love and safety were scarce resources that couldn't be counted on. This neurobiological shift from safety to scarcity becomes the lens through which you view all future relationships. Your nervous system, having learned that connection equals potential threat, begins to treat love as something dangerous rather than nourishing. This creates the fundamental contradiction that plagues adult relationships, desperately wanting connection while simultaneously bracing for its loss. The ghost patterns we explored in Chapter 1 are actually your nervous system's protective responses, encoded in your body during these early moments of threat. These patterns manifest in 3 primary ways. Hypervigilance in relationships, constantly scanning for signs of rejection, criticism, or abandonment, even in secure partnerships. Scarcity mindset about love, believing that affection, attention, and care are limited resources that must be earned or could be withdrawn at any moment. Safety through control, attempting to manage relationship outcomes through people-pleasing, emotional withdrawal, or creating conflict to maintain familiar distance. Alexander described his childhood home as walking on eggshells. His father wasn't abusive, but his unpredictable moods meant that the same behavior might be met with laughter one day and explosive anger the next. By age 10, Alexander had become hyper-attuned to micro-expressions and voice tones, constantly adjusting his behavior to maintain peace. In his adult relationships, this translated into exhausting hypervigilance, analyzing every text message for hidden meaning, interpreting normal relationship conflicts as signs of impending breakup, and shape-shifting to be whoever he thought his partner wanted. His nervous system had learned that safety required constant performance, making authentic intimacy feel impossibly dangerous. Understanding when and how your body learned to fear connection is crucial for the rewiring process ahead. In Chapter 3, we'll explore how this fear manifests as the anxiety avoidance tango that keeps you trapped in unfulfilling relationship patterns, dancing between desperate pursuit and protective withdrawal. When protection becomes self-destruction, the strategies that helped you survive childhood often become the very patterns that sabotage your adult relationships. What once protected a vulnerable child now creates the disconnection and conflict you're desperately trying to avoid. These aren't conscious choices, but deeply embedded neural pathways that activate automatically when your nervous system perceives relationship threat. Understanding how your survival strategies operate in adult relationships is crucial for breaking free from repetitive patterns. These strategies were brilliant adaptations that kept you safe when you were small and powerless, but they now create the very outcomes you fear most: rejection, abandonment, and emotional distance. The ghost patterns from Chapter 1 typically manifest through three primary survival strategies. The people pleaser learned that compliance and perfection could sometimes earn love and avoid conflict, but now struggles with resentment and loss of authentic self in relationships. The withdrawer discovered that emotional distance provided protection from unpredictable caregivers, but now creates the abandonment they fear by pushing partners away. The controller found that managing others' emotions or behaviors created temporary safety, but now suffocates relationships with micromanagement and anxiety. Daisy was known among her friends as the perfect girlfriend, always accommodating, never demanding, endlessly supportive. But her relationships followed a predictable pattern: initial adoration from partners who loved her easygoing nature, followed by their gradual loss of respect and interest, and finally their departure for someone who seemed more challenging and authentic. Her childhood survival strategy of earning love through perfection had become a relationship trap. She attracted people who wanted a caretaker rather than a partner, then felt invisible and resentful when they took her selflessness for granted. Her fear of conflict, which had protected her from her father's rage, now prevented her from having the healthy boundaries necessary for lasting love. Recognition is the first step toward transformation. When you can see your protective patterns clearly, without judgment, you create space for new choices. These survival strategies aren't character flaws, they're evidence of your resilience and adaptability. In Chapter 3, we'll explore how these protective patterns create the anxiety avoidance dance that keeps you cycling between desperate pursuit and defensive withdrawal, never finding the secure connection your heart truly craves. Uncovering your hidden emotional armor. Beneath all the various relationship struggles and patterns lies your core attachment wound, the fundamental fear or belief about yourself in relationship to others that was formed in your earliest experiences of love and care. This wound becomes the organizing principle around which all your protective mechanisms develop, like a psychological immune system designed to prevent re-injury. Your core attachment wound isn't just an intellectual concept, it's a felt sense in your body, a contraction in your heart, a story your nervous system tells about what it means to be you in relationship with others. Identifying this wound allows you to understand why certain relationship triggers feel so disproportionately threatening, and why your protective responses can be so intense. The ghost patterns we explored in